And good afternoon, and welcome to today's lesson. I'm sorry the lighting is not very good here. There we go. I think that's a bit better. So. Okay, right, slightly better. I'm just going to share the video online, and then we can begin. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at the next chapter within Unit 10. Well, sorry, that doesn't make sense. We are going to be looking at the next section in Unit 10. We are going to be looking at page 90. And here we're going to look at "We'll deal with it right away." And the lesson is now shared. Excellent. So, let's begin. In this section, I've got a cup of tea. In this section, what we're going to look at in today's lesson, we're going to look at hotel problems. And in particular, we are going to look at solving hotel problems. Now, some of the problems that we will see are problems that we saw or looked at a little bit the other day on Monday morning. From there, we will develop the language. We did look at the second conditional, but we will look at the second conditional again. We will continue with that to make sure that we can really begin to use it properly. We'll also, if we have time, we will then move on to the best holiday ever, and we will look at some important or useful language points that we can use to help develop our ability to talk about the best holiday ever. And that will cover the most important things that you would need to look at in this unit. Right, so let's begin. Now, here we've got the title, "We'll deal with it right away." Now, what does this mean? There's a problem, and the customer comes to you, tells you there's a problem. You listen, and then you decide, right, I need to do something. So when we say, we'll deal with it right away, what we are really saying, I or we will solve the problem now. We will solve the problem now, in the present. That is what this term means. Now, we wouldn't say we'll solve the problem now. We would say we'll deal with it right away. Now, right away means now, in the present. An alternative would be straight away. So we can say, we'll solve the problem straight away. That is another way that you guys can you can use this language. Now, let's look at the type of problems. First of all, what problems might people have in a hotel? And how many problems can you think of? Now, I can think of quite a lot of problems. I can think back to when I went to New York on holiday. I arrived late in the evening, and the problems were things like the bed sheets were not clean, the room wasn't clean, the towels weren't clean, the bathroom wasn't clean. And I think when it comes to hygiene or how clean a place is, I think that's one of the most common and biggest problems um, to have when you are in a hotel room. Um, I think the second problem might just be trying to get to the hotel. That could be a problem. And then I suppose another problem would be something to do with certain services, such as maybe cleaning, laundry, repairs. Maybe the bathroom needs fixing. Maybe there's there's a water leak. So, for instance, you've got the tap where the water comes out, and if there's a little bit of water going in a direction that it should not, that would be what we call a leak. So I think there's a lot of problems we could have with a hotel. Um, the next question: have you ever asked a hotel receptionist for anything? Hotel receptionist, the person you see at the desk. Um, I've asked for many things, to be honest, but usually taxis. Actually, taxis, where to eat, and when I was in Quito, in Ecuador, there was one hotel receptionist who was very, very helpful. She very kindly got a map of the city of Quito and told me where to go and where not to go, and I really liked that. I thought that was something extra. I didn't ask. She just told me, and I thought that was really that was professional. So let's then look at the vocabulary section in question 2. So it's question 2, page 90. We've got solving problems. And what we have here is we've got to match sentences 1 and 10, 1 to 10, with the follow-up questions A to J. So we need to try and check our understanding, we need to check if we understand the words in bold in the sentences. Now, the bold words, these are the thick words. Words like noise outside, boiling, record of my booking, toothbrush, toothpaste, morning free for sightseeing, upset stomach, early flight, serving breakfast, I can't get to work. And then on the other side, you've got a wake up call, book a taxi, the bill includes, change rooms, check again, chemist, turn down the heating, send someone up, have a look at it, and recommend going. So those are the words in bold. So let's start off by having a look at number 1 and seeing which sentence the follow-up question, which one does it link. So you've got your first question, and then the next question is called your follow-up question. So question and follow-up question. So the first sentence, you've got there's a lot of noise outside our room. If we look down the list, what can we find? So does it go with, do you have any? No. Could you give me a wake-up call? No. B, could you give me a wake-up call and book a taxi? That is, I have an early flight. I have an early flight. So we might as well jump in there. B goes with 8. 1 is with E. Could we change rooms? Yeah. Hello, Hario. Thank you very much. And you are correct. E definitely goes with 1, or 1 goes with E. Well done. That is correct. Let's look at the next one. My room is boiling. this obviously goes with H. Is there any way I can turn down the heating? So here we've got number 2, and number 2 goes with H. Boiling, by the way, just on the subject of boiling, boiling is an extreme adjective. If you say boiling, it is really, really hot. I cannot say very boiling. Please do not say that. Boiling is already an extreme. You can only use very with adjectives that we call gradable adjectives. So hot is a gradable adjective. So we can say it's very hot. But boiling is an extreme. So I can't say very boiling. I can only say boiling. It's the same with cold and freezing. I can say very cold, but I cannot say very freezing because freezing is an extreme. So that was just something I wanted to say. It's something extra. Next one, number 3. That's more expensive than I expected. That's more expensive than I expected. If we look down the list, what could we go with? Could you no? Bill includes no. Could change rooms? No. Could you check again, please? No. That's it. D. Could you tell me what the bill includes? So D goes with number 3. D goes with number 3. Well done, Hario. Well done. So what does the bill include? That's just asking what is on the bill. What is on the bill? I quite like digital bills. I like seeing it on like being sent to your phone. I find it because then it's easier to save for me personally. Number 4, are you sure you don't have a record of my booking? Now, I just want to explain the pronunciation. You've got a record, which is a noun, and you have record, which is the verb. Now, 4, you are correct. 4 does go with F. So F goes with 4. Well done, Hario. On the subject of record and record, the noun is record. So the stress is at the beginning of the word record. If it's the verb to record, what you'd find is that the stress is on the second syllable. That's the verb. So that's something to remember. And this happens with that happens quite a lot in English with quite a few words. So if you do have a word that is both a noun and a verb, it's good to see where the stress is. And not all the time, but most of the time, you will find that the first syllable is the strongest syllable when it's a noun. And the second syllable will be the strongest syllable if it's a verb. So this does happen with quite a few words. Refund or refund, that's another example as well. Number 5, I've forgotten my toothbrush and toothpaste. What can it go with? Do you have anything that will help, or is there a chemist nearby? Potentially, but I think that one could go with something else. 5 with A. 5 with A. Do you have any? I think that's looking at it, the options there, Hario. I am going to have to agree with you. I think that A does go with F. So A goes with, sorry, A goes with 5. A goes with 5. So well done there. Next one, number 6. I only have a morning free for sightseeing. So where would you recommend? It's probably the most likely option there. Where would you recommend? But could that go with anything else? No, I don't think that does look like it can go with anywhere else. So I'm going to say I only have a morning free for sightseeing. Where would you recommend? So I'm going to say J goes with 6. Well done, Hario. Okay, number 7. I have an upset stomach. I think here it's quite clearly going to be G with 7 because it says, do you have anything that will help, or is there a chemist nearby? So that G goes with 7. Number 8, I have an early flight. We've already done that, but just to say the answer again, this goes with a wake-up call. So B goes with 8. B goes with 8, like we previously said. Number 9, I have to leave before you start serving breakfast. I have to leave before we start serving breakfast. Could I get something to take with me? I think that's probably the most likely option. 9 with C. So C goes with 9. And that means finally, number 10, I can't get the air conditioning to work. Could you send someone up to have a look? So I goes with 10. And those are the answers there. Well done. Yes, Hario. Okay. Excellent. Great stuff. So from there, now we can't do any of the listening and we can't do any other activities. I think what we can do is we can simply let's move on to the next page. Here we'll look at page 91. We'll look at page 91. If you want to try and do some, there aren't really any other exercises we can do. Because you're not in a class. So it does make it a little bit difficult. Nonetheless, let's look at some things. Now, I think here we can have a little look we can still look at 61, recording 61, question 7. We can still look at this because this is how a conversation flows and develops. So what we have here is, if we look at, this is on page 91, question 7. Put the sentences in the order you heard them in the conversation. Then listen again and check your ideas. Now, what I would do if this were an actual classroom is I, as the teacher, would ask you to try and put them into order before listening to the track again. So you have time to try and predict. It also helps you think about how a conversation naturally develops in English. So let's just go through the different sentences and see if we can put together what the correct answers are. So you've got, I'm afraid that's just not possible. We really didn't have much time to prepare them. I doubt I can find one. I'm calling on behalf of Lady Zaza. You've got hundreds of rooms in this place. I'm sure that if she was, she'd tell you exactly the same thing. There was no way we could stay in that last place, and I'll make sure they're taken out. So what we're going to do is, let's have a look. What can we start off with? First of all, I'm calling on the behalf of Lady Zaza. Is there anything else we can say before that? No. So letter D. So first it's D. I'm calling on behalf of Lady Zaza. Now, the next thing. You've got hundreds of rooms in this place. I'm sure that if she was, she'd tell you there was no way we could stay in the last place. I'll make sure they're taken out. I'm afraid there's just not it's possible. We really didn't have much time to prepare them. I doubt I can find one. Okay, here what we've got is I'm going to go with, and then we will check together. So I'm calling on behalf of Lady Zaza. I think here the next one we can probably go with E. You've got hundreds of rooms in this place. B or C? I'm afraid that's just not possible. I doubt I can find one. I think here, if I had to guess the conversation, I think the conversation is probably about, is probably about whether there can be a room. So the next one would be, I'm going to go with C for now. I doubt I can find one. B, no, I'm sure that if she was, she'd tell you exactly the same thing. There was no way we could stay in the last place. I'll make sure they're taken out. I think the next one is actually then A. I'm afraid that's just not possible. And B, we really didn't have much time to prepare them. Ooh. Yep. I'm going to go with B. Then G. There was no way we could stay in the last place. Then probably F. I'm sure that if she was, she'd tell you exactly the same thing, which would mean that we would finish with H. I'll make sure they're taken out. That would be my prediction of how the conversation would go. But this is a difficult one because we can't listen to the recording. What we'll do is we'll have a little look at those answers later on in the lesson. Next, now moving on to, we're just going to look at the words. We're not going to try and link it to the recording because we can't, but we've got 5 words that we should probably look at. You've got ambitious, you've got demanding, lazy, selfish, and tidy. Now, all of these are adjectives. So first of all, let's try and put them into positive categories. Usually speaking, ambitious and tidy are positive. Demanding, lazy, and selfish are usually negative. Now, first of all, what does it mean if we say someone is ambitious? If someone is ambitious, it means someone really wants to be successful in something. Cristiano Ronaldo is a very ambitious football player. Next one, demanding. Someone is demanding. Who would be a good example? Someone is demanding. This is someone who, what character? Can I think of a character who's demanding? I can't help but think the most likely. I have thought of someone demanding. If you think of the sitcom Friends with Rachel, Monica, Chandler, Ross, you could say Rachel is a demanding person. Monica is a very demanding person. I think you could also say that Ross is a demanding person. Now, demanding can be a good thing, but most of the time we use it in a negative way. And this simply means someone who expects a lot and maybe sometimes too much. Lazy. If someone is lazy, it means they don't do very much. They are not active. They might not do a lot of exercise. They might not do a lot of work. They look for the easy things to do in a day. Selfish. Again, someone is selfish. Um, Someone is selfish. This is usually used in a negative way. And if we say someone is selfish, it means they don't stop to think about other people. Now, I could go into some interesting psychological theories on the term selfish. Some people like to split it into two different categories. You've got smart selfish and stupid selfish, but that's for a different lesson. And finally, you have tidy. Someone is tidy. This simply means someone looks clean and well dressed as well. A room can also be tidy. So that is one of the things that we can look at. Then these are useful adjectives to look at. Now, let's go on to the second conditional. The second conditional. Now, in Monday's lesson at the beginning, we did look at the second conditional, but I'll go over it again. And in this case, we'll have a really good look at seeing how we can develop our ways of talking about, of how we can use the second conditional to talk about different things. So let's begin. So when making a second conditional, just remind ourselves, the formula is as follows. You've got if plus the past simple plus would plus the infinitive. You can use this to make a question, but if you want to use it the other way around, you can use would, or actually you might start off with a what or where question, but you start off with maybe a WH word, like what or where or who, plus would, plus past simple. Sorry, what would you do if? If plus past simple. And that's the formula. If we, so for instance, if we write, so here it says, she'd be very ill if she ate one by mistake. So for instance, what's the question? What would happen? What would happen if she ate uncooked chicken, for example? Here you could then answer she'd, which is short for she would. She'd be very ill if she ate one by mistake. And that's how you can make one type of second conditional. But let's move on from just these sort of examples. How can we really use them in everyday conversation? Well, we can talk about it using about hypothetical situations. These are not real situations in the present. Now, for example, if we're talking about here, you often end up talking about outcomes, like if something were to happen, what would happen? So, for instance, people are talking about the football season, for example, now that the coronavirus is here and we don't know how long it's going on for. So some people are saying, what would happen if the coronavirus, if we can't, yes, what would happen if we can't play any more football games? So that's one question being asked. What would happen if we can't finish the football season? So some people say if we if we um, if we can't finish, or if we couldn't actually, if we couldn't finish the football season, then we would have to cancel the season, for example. Another question that can be asked is to do with travel. If we wanted to travel while there's the coronavirus, how how would we do so? The answer: you would not be allowed to travel if the coronavirus were still a problem. So that is how we can use it, and we can use it for so many different things. We can also use it for to talk about what would happen if um, what would happen if Donald Trump won the next US election? What would happen if aliens came down from space? What would you do if you won the lottery? So it's following this formula. Again, it's hypothetical. It's not real in the present. It can be a very realistic possibility, or it can be a very unrealistic possibility in terms of what you're talking about. You can sometimes talk about something totally impossible, such as if you were a professional footballer, if you were a professional footballer, would you play for the club you support or would you play for money? Um, Again, you could ask if you won. You could then also discuss ideas of if you were an animal, what animal would you be? This is completely unrealistic. You can never be an animal, but hypothetically, what would you be if you could choose? For me, if I could choose to be an animal, so if I were an animal, I would be, I would be maybe a dog, like a pet dog, because dogs are great. Um, I do love orca whales, actually, and I think being a whale in the sea would be pretty cool. So I would be tempted to say if I could be any animal, I would be a whale. At the same time, I think there are other animals that would be really cool to be, like a bear. I mean, if you could be a bear, it would be good fun. Um, but then there's also other animals that can fly, like an eagle. It would be cool to be an eagle. So again, we're talking about things that are completely impossible, but we can do so. Richard, I have a question. Yes, Hario, please ask me your question. What is your question, Hario? And then we'll go on and we'll look at the answers to question 11 on page 91. Why do you use were with I? Ah, that's a really good question. Okay, now you guys would think, why am I using if I were instead of if I was? Um, Now, there are some exceptions to this. There are certain exceptions. Having said that, as a general rule, when we are creating a second conditional, we choose to use were instead of was. The reason being is more to do with formal and informal. So if you are speaking formally, or even for that matter, semi formally, we are more likely to use were than was. If we are being very informal, we would use was. And that's the basic answer to your question. Having said that, there are certain exceptions when you would have to use was instead of were, but most of the time you can use were. Um, and I would certainly encourage you to write it as well. The meaning doesn't change. I should add that if you use was or were, the meaning would not change. But when we're constructing it in a second conditional, we usually use were because it's the more formal of the two. But like I said, you can still use was and it will make sense. Um, but it's very informal. And that is the answer. Um, so I'm going to introduce to you actually one more thing, and it's not in the book. It's when you're talking about the future specifically, there is an option, and it's unique to the second conditional. You cannot use this in other forms of grammar. If I were to win the lottery, I would whatever. Now you can say if I won the lottery, I would. When do we use if I were to? This is when we are going to talk about if you were to do an action, if you were to complete an action in the future. This is now not just talking about a hypothetical scenario. This is now talking about a hypothetical future. And if you're going to talk about a hypothetical future, you can use if I were to. So, for instance, I were to if I were to, if I were to, um, if I were to buy a house, I would make sure, I would make sure it was a big house. So if I were to buy a house, I would make sure it was a big house. Now, you can say if I bought a house, I would make sure it was a big house. Both are correct. But if you're going to use were to, you are emphasizing the action of doing something. So it's not incorrect just to say, if I bought a house. That's not wrong. But if you want to emphasize the action itself, almost stressing the action, then you can use if I were to. It's a bit like, again, if he were to cheat on her, I would have to tell her. Again, you can say if he cheated on her, if he cheated on her, I would tell her. Again, both are correct. But if you're going to use the word to, it's because you're really stressing the action. You're not focusing too much. Put it this way, you've got two clauses, the if clause and then the would bit. When you're using if you were to say if he cheated on her, I would tell her, your emphasis is more likely to be on you telling her. If you're focusing on, if you were to say, if he were to cheat on her, there you are going to be stressing the word to cheat. You're stressing the action, not the result. So that is when we might choose to use word to instead of just going straight for the past simple verb. That is when we want to focus, make the clear focus of our sentence on the action that is being committed rather than just the result. And that's an important thing to remember. Now, it's not in this book, and that's something you guys will learn later on. Um, but I thought I'd take the opportunity because it is, for me, um, it's quite a common everyday bit of second conditional language that I personally use. Um, it's a bit like, again, in the news today, you would say, well, if the virus were to continue into the summer, then we would have to something, something, something. It's the type of language you might hear on news channels at the moment when people are talking about risk and trying to prepare for possible problems in the future. So, with that, let's look at question number 11 and let's see if we can complete the sentences. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, like Halio did earlier. I would be more than happy to answer them. Mm. Oh no, my tea's cold. Oh no, that's disappointing. I have a really bad habit. I keep on forgetting to finish my tea. I put my tea down when it's about this much drunk, and I forget about it. And then I go back to my tea, and it's just disappointing. Cold tea is terrible. Hot tea, brilliant. Great drink. Now, let's look. Complete number 11. This is at the top of page 91. Complete the sentences with the correct form of the verbs in brackets. So, number 1. If you think you know the answer before I say it, please jump in and let us know what you think the answer is. So, number 1, I don't think I blank so calm if blank if I blank deal with someone like Lady Zaza. I'd probably say something rude to them. Now, I don't think I something so calm if I something. Now, here we've got the brackets be and have to. So the sentence, the answer is I don't think I would be so calm if I had, because had is the past of have, if I had to deal with someone like Lady Zaza. So that would be the answer to 1. You take the be and turn it into would be. You take the have to and turn it into the had to. Let's look at number 2. To be honest, I don't really like camping. I something it if I think the money to stay in hotels, but that's too expensive with a family. You've got never do and have. So to be honest, I don't really like camping. I never do. And have. So never do. Probably it would be something like I'd never do it if I had the money to stay. Yeah, I'd never do it. So the answer here is I or would or I'd I'd never do it if I had the money. That's the answer to question number two. I'd never do it if I had the money. Number three, the hotel was awful. Honestly, I something there again. Even if you something. Well, I think we can guess what this might be straight away. There is a saying, I wouldn't do something even if you paid me to. Um, I mean, I can think of certain things I wouldn't do even if you paid me to. For instance, um, I would not drink a cup of milk, a big cup of milk, even if you paid me, because I am lactose intolerant. So I really wouldn't. So the answer, the hotel was awful. I, to be negative here, I wouldn't stay there again, even if you paid me to. So I wouldn't stay there again, even if you paid me to. Number four, the hotel was very noisy because of all the bars on the streets. Really? Something a review on the web. If I something you, it's good to warn other people. Answer, I'd or I would post a review on the web. Well done. I'd post. Well done. Uh, and yes, the next answer is were. So I'd post slash were. So if I'd post a review on the web if I were you. I were you. Now, we've got 5 and 6. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes and I'm going to give you the chance to try and see if you can finish the sentences for 5A, 5B, and 6A. So, can you do 3 questions? The time is just coming up to 10 to 3. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. See if you can actually write the correct answers in here. And then when you finish, see if you can post your answers before I give them. I'm going to give you 2 minutes starting from now. 2 minutes. Okay, you've had 30 seconds already. Okay, you've got 1 minute left. Okay, you've got 20 seconds left. Okay, let's see what you've written. Thank you very much, Hario, for writing in an answer. 5A, which would you recommend? B, I had to, or I would probably go. Let's have a look. So, which we recommend, Moscow or St. Petersburg? We didn't really have time to visit both. Difficult. They're both great, but if I had to, I would probably go to St. Petersburg just because the traffic isn't as bad. Well done. Well done, Hario. Excellent. Good stuff. That is the correct answer. Bravo. Number 6, you've said if you could. If you could only visit one place in your country, where would it be? Well done, well done, Hario. That is the correct answer as well. Probably New York. There's so much to see and to do there. Actually, for number 6, please answer that question. If you could only visit one place in your country, where would it be? And please let me know in the comment section. I'll give you an idea of my answer. In the UK, if I could only visit one place in the UK, where would I go? Oh, that's such a difficult question. I would be tempted to say maybe the Lake District in Lancashire. There are parts of Scotland, actually, that I would be very tempted to say, like the Highlands. Actually, going to the Highlands would be brilliant. You get to do lots of whiskey tasting. You get to see fantastic mountain ranges. I'd be very tempted to say Scotland, the Highlands in particular. Cornwall is nice. Southwest in the summer. You can technically surf. Old Trafford, Manchester United. I wouldn't recommend the place I'm from. I know that. What if the question was slightly different? Where would you go if you could only go to one country at the moment? Which country would I go to at the moment if I could only go to one country? If it's on holiday, I think I would be very tempted to go to a South American country. I think either Colombia or Argentina. If it were Argentina, then I would go to the south part of Argentina because I'd want to go to, I'd want to go to Patagonia. So that would be my answer to that question. What about Malta? If I could only go to one part of Malta, where would I go? That's a difficult question. It depends for what. If it was to socialize, then I would say St. Julian's. If it were to enjoy space and just nature, then I would probably say Gozo, to be honest, or the north part of the island. So I think that would be my answer. Okay, guys, so let me know what your answers are in the comment section below. If you could only go to one part of your country, where would you go? Just write the name, the destination in the live comment section, or write it in a sentence. Then let me know if your answer, if the question was a bit different, if it were to do with where would you go if you could only go to one place in the world. I think I can think of another question, actually. If you could only go to one place in the world for food, so if you could only go to one place in the world for food, where would you go? Obviously, you've got an amazing range of food in South America, especially in Peru. You've got France, you've got Spain. But if I'm being honest, I think Italy. I can't get past Italy. I really enjoy Italian food. Let's see. Hario, you've written, if you visited Colombia, you would visit Tirona Park in Santa Marta. In Santa Marta. If you visited Colombia, you would visit Tirona Park in Santa Marta. Ooh, Turner Park. Let's have a little look. I want to see that on Google Images. Let's see what that looks like in Colombia. Wow, that looks beautiful. Yes, definitely. No questions asked. Thank you very much for that, Jario. I think I'm going to have to add that to my Pinterest board, actually, of travel, where I would like to go in the world. Tirona Park looks brilliant. Is it safe? Can you swim? Or is it a bit dangerous to go swimming? Let me know. Let me know in the comments section of the video. I'd like to find out a bit more about Tirona Park. Tirona Park. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to today's pre-intermediate lesson. I'm sorry we can't do anything to do with the recordings. With regards to next week and online lessons, YouTube lessons, please look at Facebook. Yes, you can swim. Excellent. Thank you very much, Hario. Please look at Facebook. Keep yourself up to date. We will be posting information about online things that are happening online next week. I will also post the timetable of YouTube videos as well. I'll be posting things about YouTube, the timings of YouTube videos, and they will also be posting one or two bits of information as well regarding certain opportunities as well that the internet presents. So thank you so much. Have a really good weekend. And I will see you guys next week. Having said that, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., I'm doing intermediate lesson. If you guys are feeling confident enough, feel free to try and join in and see if you can follow. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all safe. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Bye for now. And Hario, thank you very much for your suggestion. Like and share the video and subscribe.